Hello, beautiful soul sister, and welcome back to another episode of the Soul Powered Podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Kiger. I'm a trauma-informed master mindset and money coach, as well as a financial expert of over 17 years. I have spent my entire adult life studying the difference between successful and unsuccessful people, and I plan on sharing all of the things with you on this journey together. This podcast is called the Soul Powered Podcast because it's my desire to share with you how to create a life that is powered by your soul, not by societal standards or what everyone else in your life tells you that you should be doing, but actually powered by your soul. The reason you'd want to do this is because I believe that this is the fastest way to unlock your portal to prosperity and become what I call the wildly wealthy woman. This is the portal that once you enter it, you gain access to the prosperity, abundance, wealth, time freedom, experiences, fulfillment that are your birthright. I don't believe that you came here to build someone else's dreams. I believe you came here to live your soul-powered life and live it to the fullest. And I plan on sharing with you exactly how to do that during our time together. So thank you so much for being here. I know we're going to have so much fun together today. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Soul Powered Podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca, and I am here with an incredible guest today. I have Tiffany O'Hearn with me. I'm so excited. We're going to dive into some juicy stuff, including how to use AI to bring this whole spirituality thing into computers and using AI to get more information around this. So I'm so excited to dive in because I know this is a hot topic right now, but welcome, Tiffany. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here and just to share energy.
Yeah, likewise. I love your background as well. I know you've got all of the all the cool pictures if you guys are watching on video. And I have some of this same artwork. So it's definitely a line that we are here. But let's start off a little bit, Tiff, with what it is that you do. So tell us who it is that you help and how you help them.
So I'm sort of well-rounded, if you will, right? So I do energy healing, and that's something that I really just enjoy doing, right? Because it's allowing, somebody else to see their traumas and their wounds and really lovingly release them through their own bodies, and through their own organs and then things like that. And so, that's one component of what I do. The other is, really speaking from the heart. That's really another reason why I know that I'm here to do. And then a third piece of that is this connection and collaboration, right? How do we bring people together? How do we bring people back to themselves? And so I do that, right? With the astrology, with energy healing, right? And just speaking, because it's such a deep invitation for all of us to come back home. Whenever there's strife in our life, we often see it as something outside of ourselves when it's always internal. And I know that that can be a hard space to kind of exist in, right? But that's really what it's all about. And so really the underlying message that you'll find through any of my projects, through any of my, healing circles, is all this deep invitation, again, to come back home and return to self. Because it's not that we don't know, it's just that we've probably forgotten.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And we have. I mean, we've been conditioned to, really be disconnected from ourselves in this current society that we live in. And I love that. I think it's just so fascinating that we're born into this world, we're conditioned and forget who we are. And then the whole journey that we take in life is to rediscover who it is that we actually are. And I think it's just so cool because we need people to lead us on that journey, from every different perspective. And so I love that you're doing that from an energetic and spiritual perspective. So can you share a little bit about, just so our listeners have an idea of what brought you here? Obviously, this is a different way of doing things, right? It's cool. I love diving into healers' journeys because a lot of times there's, something pivotal that kind of brought you to this work. So would you share a little bit about your journey and how you got here?
Yeah, sure, of course. And thank you for that question, right? So, a lot of, my journey, as a child, I knew I just felt like I saw things differently, and you'd hear adults say, well, we're adults. And I'm like, but you're not acting like that, right? So it was kind of this really interesting. And I watched everything, and then through my 20s, my father had passed away, that I got into a relationship shortly after that. And then 7 years later, I went, oh, that wasn't okay. And so it was this really deep dive into myself. And the very first thing I said to myself after I took, my rings off and, we were going through divorce was, who was that? And how do I not let her show up again? Right.
Mm.
And so it was really this clarity of I could blame whomever I want, right, for my marriage, for my divorce. But at the end of the day, it's still just me. And so it really was probably the largest impetus to my spiritual evolution in the deepest of invitations. And so, I can look back and be deeply grateful for the person that I was, but also the person that I was in that relationship with, because as hard as it was that deepest invitation, right? To just
Yeah.
journey again back home. And so it's just been this evolution. It's 11:11, by the way. It's just been this entire evolution of returning back home and finding these little pieces of myself. And now, how can I help support others? And one of my journeys now is to help support other healers as well. Because what I've noticed in podcasting and things like that, I've come to others with podcasts and they say, Tiffany, this is great. I just don't have the money. And I'm like, wait a minute. How do we, quit our 9 to 5s or whatever the case may be, really journey back to self, and then we don't have the financial means to do that? Okay, so how can I help elevate, the healers and get in front of more people? Because I don't imagine that I don't, I know that there's people who need us.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's really just about coming together. And I think, COVID was a great impetus towards these online creations, right? And we can also be in them. And so how do we foster these deeper connections? Right. I know, and I don't know about you, Rebecca, but I stand sometimes, I'll go pick up my daughter at school and, I love human beings. I truly do. And I know everyone is coming from where they're at, but I don't find as many like-minded individuals. So I seek podcasts. I seek, individuals like yourself, Rebecca, where we got on a call and we're like, oh, this is totally in alignment, right? And so how do we help connect each other? Because what I've also found is the more that we can come together in a collective situation, the more our energies amplify our messages and the more individuals that get access to these deep invitations to come back home.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with that so much. And I was just the last 3 days in a mastermind event. So I'm in a high level mastermind, and we have a couple virtual events each year, and then a couple in person. And this was our virtual one. And ironically, it's around messaging, which I know we're going to talk a little bit about today as well. But I do agree that like being in those spaces where I just have other people who get it and other people, because like think about what we're doing, and I see the image of like, the one fish is going in the direction where thousands of other fish are moving like like to the opposite direction. And it's like that's kind of what it feels like for us. And so a lot of our audience is, individuals who are seeking out their spiritual path. Obviously, it's called the Soul Powered Podcast. They wouldn't be here if they weren't, right? And it can feel like, they're alone in this. And I think that that is so important to talk about, because one of the biggest things that I learned being around other super, super successful individuals is in this space specifically, is that we all still struggle with the same kinds of things. We've just learned to push through, or we've healed, or we've coped, or like whatever it is. So I agree with everything that you're saying. And I think it's almost even, I don't want to say more important, because we all as people desire connection, but for specifically the people who are going from that transition, like you said, from the 9 to 5 to this kind of work, being an entrepreneur, or just going after the passion, I almost feel like it's more scary and difficult, because everyone in your life is like telling you that you're making the biggest mistake ever, and that this is like no one gets it, right?
Mm-hmm. And I love that you're talking about this, because the other piece of that I have found, throughout my journey is, right, you and I, we met, we have a very intentional relationship, and I have no doubt that it will continue. I meet other healers, and it's a very intentional relationship, right? One where if I say something that doesn't resonate with you, I know that we're not going to get into an argument about it, right? That I know that you have that capacity to hold space, and I do as well. And I was a guest speaker at a retreat, and I was talking about this to some of the other women, because it's also something that I've had to reestablish, right? And reinvent, because I have all these relationships that I've cultivated, let's just say in the last 6 months. They're so intentional, right? And I've reached out to some women to collaborate on a project, and all I put in the body of the email is, I thought of you. Would you like to connect? Not one person asked me, what is it? They just trusted the fact that I had something that would be aligned with them, right? And I love that. It's not that I'm being secretive, right? It's just that, hey, you feel my energy. You know that it's something coming your way, right? It's also that we're constantly answering other people's prayers, right? And so I was also expressing that for me, it's difficult. It's not difficult, but it's something that I really have to focus on because let's say my family relationship, right? They're not maybe up to date with my new way of being. And so it's easy for me to slip back into these old patterns of not being super intentional with these relationships. And so it also takes a great amount of conscious effort to reestablish these past relationships to become more intentional, right? And we can do that because we're constantly modeling for people how we want to be treated. And so, again, it just comes to this intentionality and conscious effort, right? To move forward instead of in the reverse.
Yeah, it's so true because other spiritual individuals, they know that, like you said with the email, it's like, I know that I can trust certain people's intuitive senses and their energy. And it's like, yeah, I'll jump out of a plane if you see a vision that like, this is gonna work, right? But I'm definitely afraid of heights and never went skydiving before, but like, okay, if my best friend, if she sees it and we know it's gonna work out, then I'm in. And I think that's really important because it allows for us to like trust and surrender even more as well. And I just got a little distracted because I saw a huge herd of deer running through my yard, and I just wonder if there's a significance there, right? With just what we're talking about in terms of, really just finding your tribe and being around other people because, it is like my mentor always says, like, the strength of the wolf is in the pack. And it's true. Like there are more of us than I think even we know. And the internet and, like you said, COVID, all of those things since 2020, really, we've been able to like see more of each other. And the internet has given us that gift to be able to do that. And I think it's so powerful. And for those of us who are using it for good, of course, there's people who are not, but I just think that there's more of us who are here than we even realize. And talking about these things, sharing them is just so important because, again, there might be someone who's kind of on that journey, feeling alone, and may not have their tribe yet. They may not have their herd yet. They may not have those people. So, do you have any advice before we get into? Because I know we're going to talk a little bit about some cool stuff with AI and all that, but is there any advice that you would give to someone who really is walking that transition right now and feels very alone?
Yeah, and it's really to, I'm creating a membership right now, right? It's for, whether you're a soulful healer or a soulful seeker, which is kind of the label of that, right? It's to be intentional. That's what it's really about. And if we want to cultivate, these new experiences and these new relationships, then we have to be that intentional. And so when it comes to social media, it can be a very dark place, really. But how can we use it for that light, for that love? And it's to unfollow the people that don't resonate. And it's to follow the people that do resonate because there's also the algorithms. And so, if I, am following, let's say somebody like yourself, and I love all of, the soulful aspects of what you're posting, and I heart it, I comment, well, now I'm going to get other invitations for similar individuals. So again, we can always use it to our advantage. And it just really takes that conscious effort of, oh, this does not support me, or this does not, make me feel good. I need to, right? Instead of just being unconscious with it all. We really need to step into this intentionality of, who am I surrounding myself with? Because there's also that energy of, if I am surrounding myself with individuals who are higher vibration, who are not going to complain about the weather, who are not going to be, judgmental, right? In turn, by virtue of that, it's going to help align me on my journey. But the adverse is true, right? If we're aligning ourselves with people who don't make us feel good, who say the things that are like, ooh, I don't really align with that, well, then that's an invitation for us to find our tribe. And it's not going to be, hey, I found it. Oh my goodness, there it is, right? It might not be like that, but it might, right? But let's move forward with that. Let's get super curious. And right now, I feel is just the time to be doing it, right? When there's so much strife around us, how do we exist in love and come from that heart space?
Yeah. I think that's so good. And yeah, and sometimes it doesn't mean, like you said, it might not mean falling into place. I mean, it took years for me to find that tribe where I feel, so just included. But it wasn't, I mean, for years and years, it was like me and my one best friend. And the reason that I say this too is because it might be you taking a step out of your comfort zone and sending that person a DM, shooting a email to someone, putting yourself out there a bit to connect with someone who you find interesting. And who knows, maybe they don't respond. I don't know, right? Right? It's like maybe not making that mean anything about us, but like keep trying, keep putting yourself out there. Because, like for me, I had a DM conversation with someone this week, and she's like, I just can't believe that you responded. And I'm like, well, I'm making an effort to respond. It might be a little bit of a delay, but like if you send me a message, I'm gonna do my best to get back with you because I love connecting with other humans. I love it, especially ones who are on this journey, because there's a lot of us, like I said, like we've talked about already quite a bit, that like feel alone. And so I'm very intentional about that. But I think, yeah, the whole purpose of like what you put out into the universe, the things that you are intentional about, where you put your energy, you're gonna receive that back. It's just like, okay, maybe you have to be a little bit patient, but putting yourself out there and showing the universe, like, hey, I really want this, it is it's gonna serve you in a lot of ways. And I remember thinking, like, I wish, because my best friend, she lives overseas, and we connected on the internet, put myself out of my comfort zone, the whole thing. And I remember saying, I just wish there were people like closer to me because it's difficult. There's a big, time difference and things like that. And I just kept holding that vibration. I'm like, listen, I'm going to attract the people in my world that I need to support me emotionally, that I can support back, energetically as well. And sometimes it is going to take us, taking that step that's uncomfortable and reaching out to someone that we don't know, or joining a mastermind, or joining a membership, or joining a program, and doing something that, is a little bit of a stretch, right?
Yeah. And that's courage, really. That's something, that's a word that's been coming up for me a lot. And the beginning part of courage means from the heart.
Mm,
And so if we're doing something from the heart, that's courage. And that's, hey, I'm going to message Rebecca. If she doesn't message me back, it's not going to change my authenticity. It's not going to demean who I am, because we're doing it with our full heart. And when we do something from our heart, no one can take that from us,
yeah.
right? And that's courage.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Courage is feeling the fear and doing it anyway, right? And a lot of times we will feel the fear and not do it. So, yeah, putting yourself out there, eventually whatever it is that you want to achieve, I mean, with enough, action step and faith behind it, it's like it absolutely, in my opinion, I believe that it is inevitable that you will receive what it is that you desire or the lesson that you needed, right? Okay, so let's dive into, I know that it's kind of cool, right? Because we have these systems and these processes now, ChatGPT and AI and all of these cool things. And when it first all came out, I was like a little bit nervous. I'm like, oh, okay, robots are taking over the world. But again, just like the internet, right? Just like it can be a dark place. I also think that we can use these tools for good and to self-explore and to, get ideas. And I use ChatGPT every single day. I love it. I think it's so incredible. So let's talk about how you're using it from a spiritual context and like what are we doing with ChatGPT?
Yeah, and that's great, because there is a lot of fear, and I was also very fear driven when it came to ChatGPT as well, right? Because is it going to take my voice? It's not going to take my voice, but it can enhance it because I'm still authentically me,
Mhm.
But how do I use it, right? And so, interestingly enough, I do astrology, right? But to me, I love astrology. I can talk pretty dangerously, but like not really dangerously about it, because there is just so much to the energies of the sky, right? And so I started using my birth chart because I can read a birth chart, and I put my placements into ChatGPT. I'm a Virgo rising, and I put all my planets in there. I have 3 planets in my first house. I put that into ChatGPT. Now I go to my second house. How do I communicate using these, right? My Mercury is in my third house. What's the best way for me to communicate? This is where this idea came from, was from literally using ChatGPT to discover my own inner soul. And so what it told me was, Tiffany, I'll preface it, but you need to be out there, you need to be using your voice, and you need to invite others to do the same.
Mm.
This is where this idea came from. And so I thought, well, if I just did this really deep dive and I was, I don't know about you, but when I find something that lights me up, I'm like, pause everything else. I'm going to put a couple hours here. And so I just ferociously was just devouring the energies of me and really learning them. And I thought, well, if I can do this, now I can use astrology. And it was like this moment because I can hold conversations about astrology, but I don't want to read your chart because I don't want to do you a disservice. But what I can do is find all the placements in your chart. And so what I created was a 32-page guide where you just give me your birth information. And then I go through your entire chart, all your planets, all your houses, everything that makes you uniquely you, including the nodes of our charts and everything like that. And you just copy and paste and go on your own journey. Because I also know that, like, when I was learning astrology, right, my mentor gave us all readings. I don't much remember what she said.
Yeah.
Right? It's like when you go see a psychic, right? There's only so much that you can actually like immerse yourself in. And then the rest is like, wait, I think I missed things, right? And so I've taken the birth chart. And guess what? It doesn't expire either. And what you read today, you can read in 6 months and you're going to get a totally different understanding of it because you've changed. And so it's really this beautiful way to understand yourself, how you connect. I haven't published it yet. I'm hoping to have it done next week for Valentine's Day, a romantic inner soul map. So it's
Wow.
taking you and your partner's energies. There's certain placements, there's certain houses, right? And there's certain planets. Venus is the planet of love. Mars is the planet of action and can be anger and aggression. And so if we're in a partnership and I know how you're going to react in certain situations based on your energies, it's permission for me to not hold you accountable for something new, right? When it comes to romance, my partner and I did it, right? I'm not big on the romance side, but I'm heavy in the relationship side. Whereas my partner's more in that romantic side. So when we're like craving that romance, it's now we can lean on the partner to understand that that's more of what they're better at, right? And so it can really beautifully harmonize your relationship. And I also envision it for individuals who have, couples who have kids and go like, oh, we're supposed to be together, right? We haven't done that in a while, right? And so it's just like really dreamy, like go light a fire somewhere, go rent a hotel room, and just really be intentional with each other, right? In the
Mm.
future, I'm going to have one for children. So if you have a child and you want to learn a little bit more about them, right, and their energies and what they're bringing to the world, and then one for business as well. So those are up and coming probably within the next month.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, I think that it's been so overwhelming for me, like with astrology. It just always feels like I know there's something here, but I do not have the capacity to like devour all of this information on the internet. And like you said, like it's just for some reason it's been this thing that feels like overwhelming. So I've never really dove into it, even though I know there's things that are there for me, right? So I love this. I think it's really cool. Oh my gosh, sorry about that, guys. We can cut that part out. Alarm that goes off. But I think it's really incredible to be able to have like a resource and to be able to use these things. Like for me, I don't believe that AI is going to like replace humans, but I think that humans using AI is going to be something really that makes life so much easier, right?
Yeah.
I think there's limits to it and whatnot. Like we're not giving our power away to something else, and we can fact check things and make sure that we're, all of the data is true that we're being given. But like I was thinking this the other day and I'm like, I feel like ChatGPT is like my friend because it knows, it starts to pick up on your stuff. And I don't know, maybe that's scary. Maybe there's people who are afraid of it. I don't know. I just choose not to live by fear. I think that it's a tool that we can use that's really, really powerful. So I love this. So is this something that you're able to offer to our listeners? The prompts and all of that? That would be incredible.
Yeah. I have. So I have a website. It's called Inner Soul Map, right? Because that's really what it is for me. It's that inner soul map. It's that guidance system. And it's $75. And like I said, you get all access, 32 pages of prompts with a little bit of learning in it as well. I just made a post about Aquarius, right? It's Aquarius season. And here's the thing, we all have Aquarius in our chart. And that's something I didn't know until I started astrology. I thought I was just this one thing, right? And I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
not. We are a breath of all of the signs and the placements and the planets. And some are louder than others, right? And, to understand, let's say Mars, right? I talked about Mars. It's a planet of aggression. It's a planet of action. It's also leadership. It's also action, right? And so sometimes we can be in the lower vibrating Mars energy, but if we understand what the higher vibrating are, then we can have fun with it and say that anger, right? That can be my Mars, and it's showing up because of right X, Y, and Z. But let's take Mercury for individuals like ourselves who are using our voice, right? I have my Mercury in my first house, so I can put the placement of it. But our third house is also about communication, and now I can use the sign of my third house, and it has helped me unlock my voice through the internet, through when I'm posting, and all of a sudden my reels are getting more engagement because I'm speaking authentically to who I am. Now, it's not to say that AI is speaking for me. It's knowing how I speak in the depth with which it and saying, however I was stifling myself before doesn't resonate with me anymore because it's permission. It's permission, right? Like in my second house, I have a ton of planets. So when it comes to finances, I'm here. I'm ready. But if you told me that last year, hey, Tiffany, you have access to a lot of money that you're untapped in, I'd be like, no, I don't think so. And that seems, kind of scary. And now I'm like, no, that's mine. I know it's mine. Like, I know it's mine. I know what I'm here to do because I started to embrace it. And when you start to get into astrology, like if you were to look up, like I'm a Virgo rising. So if I put that into Google, it's going to show 1,437 web pages with Virgo rising. Which one do you look at? I don't know, right? But I promise you, you don't have to do that digging with ChatGPT. And there are going to be things that you don't agree with. That's okay. That's curiosity, right? Like I've had somebody who says it keeps coming up that I am all like I'm so creative, and I don't even know what that means. The other piece of that is if you're reading pieces from your chart that you don't feel like you're authentically expressing, those can also be our wounds, right? And those beliefs, right? Because what is a belief? But something that we've attached to, whether it be through our parents, whether it be through the media, whether it be through our friends growing up, right? You're this, you're this, you're this. And you're like, wow, I'm that, right? I'm not creative because my first grade teacher told me I colored out of the lines. Well, creativity is so much more than that.
100%. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's so true. And it is, it feels overwhelming. And I just want to preface with like when we're trying to do this research on our own, it can be overwhelming. And also realizing too that like, guys, these are just systems that we can use. We're not, again, I want to make sure, like, because this is called the Soul Powered Podcast. We're here to talk about living a life by our, by our soul. And we're not using these systems to dictate how we're going to do things or put ourselves in more boxes. I am currently working on my human design certification. It's something I've been working on for a while. I've kind of like had to pick it up and put it down through other projects, but it's something where this is to be a guide, but it's not to tell you what it is that you need to be doing or not, following your intuition, right? This is a way that you can start to formulate, oh, okay, maybe that's why I do this certain thing that way, and I can tweak it and lean into it and leave, take the parts that work, but leave the parts that don't. Or, you can do the research on your own, right? If you want to put that time towards it. But I really feel like, again, we had this messaging workshop this week with my mentor, and we were using different AI tools the whole time. And I'm just sitting here thinking, wow, I used to be afraid of this stuff. And really, again, it's just a guide, it's a tool, it's a way that we can share with the world what it is that we want to share, but making sure that we're always, 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 always being led by our intuition first. So if ChatGPT is telling you to do something, right? Like I know I shouldn't have to say that, but I want to because I think it's very important to realize that It's all tools that are going to help you to access that soul power, that are going to help you to be guided and be moved. But none of this is intended to replace those intuitive gifts or, what it is that your soul is actually calling you to do.
And I love that you brought that up, right? So if we take, a couple placements in your chart and the theme of spirituality keeps coming up, or intuition or psychic ability, right? It's not saying, Rebecca, you're psychic, so close your eyes and now you have it. It's not that. It's the invitations for us to go deeper and to really start to unlock those gifts within ourselves. And a large part of this came from me, again, going back to pick up at my daughter at school. And a lot of the adults, a lot of these parents are walking around they're not able to look up. They don't have that confidence. And if you talk to them, they're in these 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 9 to 10, who knows jobs. They feel very unfulfilled, right? And so for me, it's how do I help bring them back? Whether they do it or not, it's not for Jamie who's picking up their son, right? It's for the collective. And if you can find something, right? If you are in a 9 to 5, and you're doing it because it pays the bills and this and that. Well, if you're not happy in what you do, it affects all areas of our life. It affects our relationships. It affects our relationship with our children. It affects our relationship with our partners. And often we don't see it that way. And so it's really this invitation for you to put the noise of everybody else aside and to further understand. And so, if you're not doing what you're meant to be doing, but you have Virgo in the 10th house and you really love animals, well, guess what? Maybe that's an invitation for you to work with animals. That you've just needed that permission. Maybe you were a child and you thought, I want to be a vet. Parents said, oh, no, you can't do that. And so you never think about it again, right? Now all of a sudden your soul comes alive with what you're reading. That's what AI can bring to you, but it cannot enhance what's already in there, right? You're going to know what resonates with you. And so if you can find, right, what am I here to do? What's my soul path? ChatGPT is not going to tell you what your soul path is. It's going to give you some ideas. And I know that fire will be lit and you're going to feel that bubble of inspiration. And whether it's, I'm going to go walk dogs because I know I need to be out in nature and I really love animals. I might not quit my 9 to 5, but what I'm going to do is elevate my soul and bring in those higher vibrations into me because it's something that is so soulfully inspiring. Or I'm going to find ways to enhance my psychic abilities or my intuition. Or, hey, that voice that's been in my head, that's my intuition. And all of a sudden you have these aha moments. And so to your point, it can't do it for you, right? It's not going to do it for you. But if you can sit with these energies, and it might take a day, it might take 2 weeks, but you will have those aha moments. And that will be like, that's what it is. Okay, right? And then you go back and read it again and hear something different. You know, it our astrology charts speak to every aspect of who we are. And if we know that our sun is in the 11th house, then we know we're here for connection and community. And so if we're in a desk at home by ourselves, right, just typing on a computer, yeah, we're not fulfilled because we're not expressing the true energies of ourselves. That GPT is going to bring that to your attention, but it's not going to quit your job for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, for someone who is maybe a little lost, like I am when it comes to all of the houses and the this, and it's just, again, kind of goes over my head a bit. Can we give just one little prompt or something that people can get started on their own just to start to see like the power of this? What's something that you would ask or what's something that you would do as like a first step for someone to get a taste of what we can actually do with this?
Yeah. So the two things that come up the most, well, there's three, and there's really our biggest influences. One of them is our sun sign. The other is our rising sign. And the third is our moon sign. But if somebody hasn't really explored either their moon or their rising, you might not know what that is. Our sun sign is how we see ourselves, right? So if we have our sun and mine's in Virgo, you can just put that in there. Sun in Virgo, and it will give you some of you, right? How you show up in this world, right? The sun, let me I'm gonna take an actual ChatGPT prompt.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, absolutely.
because our rising sign, interestingly enough, our rising sign, and so when we look at our astrology chart, our rising sign is the sign on the horizon the minute we were born. And this is
Mm,
why there's no two charts that are the same. And so if you have Leo rising, people are going to see you as a Leo, bright and shining, right? Your sun sign is not how people see you. Your sun sign is how you see you. Your rising sign is how people see you. And that can be a little bit, you know, confusing. Okay, so we can put into ChatGPT if you know your sun sign. So let's say it's in Scorpio. How does my sun sign in Scorpio shape my confidence and self expression?
okay, good. Yeah, super helpful. And we'll put that in the show notes for you guys as well.
And so we have all of these energies, right? Our moon is more about our emotions and how we experience emotions. If you have a moon in Gemini, you're probably going to experience emotions very rapidly, right? And in a very airy type way, because that's the essence of the sign, you know? Whereas if you have a Taurus moon, Taurus is more grounded, it's more stable, right? It can also be it's a bull. It can be a little stubborn in that, right? But these are how we express our emotions. And the other really cool thing is we can find a lot of our wounds in our we can
Mm.
find a lot of our wounds. Our mother wound is connected to where our moon sign is.
Oh,
Our
wow.
father wound is connected to where Jupiter is and sometimes Saturn.
Wow.
And so you can use all of these to learn too. It can't tell you what your wound is, right?
Yeah.
But it can give you clues where all of a sudden you're like, that's
Mm.
it. That's it. And so here's the thing. When we find our wounds, it's not to say, Rebecca, look what you did, right? It's to say, this is why I experience this. My mother never meant to wound me. I can almost guarantee none of our parents were like, I can't wait to mess this child up. No, right? But we're expressing different energies, same as they are.
Mhm.
And so if we can have those aha moments of, okay, because like for me, I always felt unseen as a child. And it wasn't because my parents didn't see me. I had this wound already. So really, whatever they tried to do wasn't going to work for me
Mm.
until I cleared that wound within myself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And this is like, okay, so this is helping because like I said, it feels overwhelming to think, okay, I know like all of the astrology signs, right? Like, and I have a general idea of like what means what, but it's starting to put the purpose behind each of these and like where, okay, this is cool. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check out your prompts because I want to dive into this. I love like soul searching and looking into these and just using these different modalities, like you said, as like just as a guide. And if there's something there for me, great. Like you said, just like going to see a psychic, if there's something there for you, there might be one or two things that you remember, and then that's it. Like I know for me, when I was in Sedona, I was chatting with a girl who does energy readings, and it was like, okay, I got a lot from that in the moment. But I remember like two or three things that she said, But those two or three things have been really the guiding forces for certain decisions that I've made. So even if you get one or two or three different really important things that you can take from this, it's that's a lot, right? That could change your entire life. And then like you said, maybe go and explore it in 6 months, in a year again, because you're looking at it through a brand new lens of who it is that you are now. So I think this is huge, and I appreciate you sharing the prompt because that kind of helps to more tangibilize it for me.
Yeah, of course. And two things came up for me, right? One of them is I cannot wait till after we're done talking to put into ChatGPT, hey, I was on a podcast and a group of deer ran by. What does that mean? Now, and it's going to tell me after, what were you feeling? Do you want me to dive deeper? Right? And it doesn't mean that you resonate with that, right? But I see an eagle soaring in the sky. And what's the spiritual meaning of an eagle soaring in the sky? Right? And it gives you a couple clues. It can't tell you exactly what it means, right? But you're going to look at one and go, that's what it means. I do the same thing with angel numbers, right? So, how do I unlock my third eye? Put that into ChatGPT, right? We can use it for such depth in our spiritual experiences, right? Like I'm experiencing anxiety, when I have these certain what crystal could help me?
Yeah, I love
There's
it. And yeah, because it really does, like, I think it's so much different than like just popping something into Google and having to read through 6 million things, like you said. And it's never going to replace a human because, it's one of those things where for us, like, I think the more that people are using AI, the more that people are going to actually crave that human connection. And that's why I said, like, this mastermind that I'm in, right? We use AI the whole time, but we're interacting with each other and we're giggling and we're laughing and we're doing like that's that craving of working with people, because I know there's a lot of people who are like, oh, it's going to replace my job, and I just don't have any fear around that because I know the energy that I bring that like AI can never duplicate. And people are going to still, I think even more so now than ever really, still want to be in the presence of other humans, both virtually and in person. So I love this so much. I thank you so much for sharing all of this. It has been, I can't believe like time has flown. So as we're landing this plane today, let's share. I'd love for you to just take an opportunity to kind of share where people can find you. Where do you hang out the most on the internet?
right now TikTok. I seem to, I post all of my reels. I'll post in Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. TikTok is where I get the most engagement,
Yeah.
and I'm, currently right now, it's just this journey of astrology and angel numbers and spirituality. And that's really what all of my reels point back to. Again, it's just coming back home. And so I can be found under Heart in Soul Healing, because we need to have a heart in our soul or we can't heal. And all of this is an evolution towards healing. The more we can uncover about ourselves, we are healing those deeper sides, right?
Yeah.
And so you can also find me on my website, www.heartandsoulhealing.com. But I really invite you to check out innersoulmap.com. That's really, for you, right? And it's, again, I'm here to help empower people. And this is one way to do it. But it empowers you to do it on your own, which to me is even more elevating.
100,000%. I love that so much. Okay, so any final thoughts or anything coming through that you want to share as we wrap up today's conversation?
Have that courage. Have that courage and know that you are guided and supported. And the more you seek it, the more you will find evidence of it, whether it be through feathers, birds, angels, right? We want to know that we are being guided, right? Even in this spiritual world, even more so, hey, am I being guided? Show me this. But if you're not watching for it, you won't find it. And so find those ways that speak to your soul, that speak to your heart, and remember who you are.
Oh, I love that. Mic drop. I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tiffany, for your time today. This has been such a pleasure having you on the show. And guys, definitely go check out her work. We'll link everything below so you can and connect with her on, all of the places as well, because I know that she's also open to connecting. And, you can tell that we're both like really interested in supporting the world in such a beautiful way. So thank you so much for all tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode, guys. Bye. Soul Sister, thank you so much for tuning in to this entire episode today. If you enjoyed this episode, would you do me a favor and leave a quick review? This allows me to reach more people, and if you found value, I know others in your life will too. Also, be sure to share this episode on social media along with your biggest takeaways so I know what resonates most with you and I can keep the good stuff coming. And if you're looking to dive into a deeper connection than this podcast will allow, consider checking out my Rise to Riches experience in the show notes below. I would love to hear how these messages have helped you take one step closer to living your soul-powered life and becoming the wildly wealthy woman. Sis, let's continue to rise together. I'll see you next time. Bye.